Hello, it's April from April's Home, and today I'm here to make some delicious oatmeal raspberry bars. I love oatmeal raspberry bars. It is a really fun and easy recipe. So what you will need is some flour, some oats, and brown sugar. You'll need salt, baking powder, vanilla, cinnamon, 1.5 cups of butter, 3 sticks of butter here, and you'll need a jar of seedless red raspberry jam. I prefer seedless raspberry jam in this recipe just because I don't love the big seeds in raspberry jam. And I imagine you could swap out a lot of different jams for this recipe. So these are the simple ingredients. You will also need a mixing bowl and an electric mixer. You will need a 9x13 pan, and we'll go ahead and grease that, and you will want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to go ahead now and clear the ingredients off to the side and get out my mixing bowl and start mixing up the ingredients. Okay, I have out my mixing bowl here, and I'm getting the brown sugar poured in first, and I have 2 cups of packed brown sugar here. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add my 3 sticks of butter that I have softened in the microwave. So I'm going to go ahead and pour in my butter. It's mostly melted there. You can see there's a little bit that's unmelted, but just soften your butter enough so that you can blend it together here with your brown sugar. So I'm going to go ahead now and get my electric mixer out, and I'm going to go ahead and blend the butter and sugar together until it's nice and smooth. So just starting on low speed here, and blending it together with the mixer until everything is thoroughly combined. Next, I'll add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Okay, and next I'll be adding 3 cups of oats. Here's our first cup, second cup, and third cup. Then to the top of this, I'm going to go ahead and add our flour. So we'll be adding 3 cups of flour and the third cup. Next, I'll be adding a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of baking powder. Here's my teaspoon of salt and my teaspoon of baking powder. And now I'll add a teaspoon of cinnamon. Okay, here's the cinnamon. And now I'll go ahead and get this all mixed together. Before I turn the mixer on, I will use the beaters here without turning them on to just kind of incorporate some of the dry ingredients together. Kind of push it down into the sugar and butter mixture in the bottom, so that way when we start up the mixture, it doesn't blow flour everywhere. And I'll start it on a nice low speed and mix it until everything is combined. And I'll make sure to scrape the bottom frequently as well so we don't have any pockets of flour. So I'll come back when this is mixed together and I'll show you the next step. So my oatmeal mixture is completely mixed now, and I've got out my 9x13 pan. I'm going to go ahead and give it a spray with some pan spray here just to prevent some sticking. And then I'm going to take 2/3 of this and press it along the bottom. So you'll want to make sure to save 1/3 of it to sprinkle on the top. So only 2/3 into the bottom of the pan. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to separate it out after I get this sprayed, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so you can see I've left some of the mixture here and pressed 2/3 of the mixture into the bottom of my 9x13 pan here. I've pressed it down using my hands, and I also like to go along with the measuring cup here or with a spoon and kind of just pressing it down and making sure that the layer is even. And now I'm going to go ahead and open up my raspberry jam, and we're going to go ahead and spread the raspberry jam all around this layer here. So I'm going to start with 2/3 of the jar of jam. I'm going to open that up and get that spread out, and if I want to add the rest I can, but I'll just judge that by how it looks. When we're all done spreading on the jam, that's when we will add the crumble topping to the top of the raspberry jam. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the jar of jam, scoop some out, and show you how I spread it around. So I've actually scooped out about 3/4 of the jam, and I do think I will probably end up using the whole jar of jam. But I like to go ahead and just wait until the end to make sure I actually need it. So I'm just going to use my spoon to spread this around into a nice even layer, just like so. So I'm going to keep doing this until it's spread all around, and I'll come back and show you the next step. Okay, so I've gone ahead and used the entire jar of jam here. This is an 18-ounce jar of jam. And I've spread it out in a nice even layer all over the base of the oatmeal raspberry bars. Now I'm going to go ahead and take the crumble topping here and place it around and drop it on in chunks. I like to kind of combine it together a little bit and drop it on in little sections here, just like so. So just kind of pressing it together and then dropping it on just like so. So we have the nice crumbly layer. You can try to get that evenly distributed all over the top of the raspberry jam. Just nice chunks of the crumble topping here. I'm going to go ahead and move my spoon and continue working on this until the whole top is covered with the next layer of the oatmeal raspberry bars here. So I'm going to keep doing that, and then I'll come back and we'll be ready to bake our raspberry bars. So we have our top layer all on the raspberry bars here. You can see on the side a little layer here like so. After crumbling it on, I did make sure to press down all over the top just to make sure that everything was an even layer. And now I'm going to go ahead and get this in the oven at 350 degrees for between 40 and 50 minutes. I'll check that at 35 minutes just to make sure that it's not overcooking or getting too toasty brown. The sugar in the jam does sometimes bubble up around the edges and make some little dark edges there. So I'll be back when these are done baking and I'll show you how they turned out. We're going to be looking for a nice golden brown on the top just so that we know it's done. You'll see the filling being nice and hot and bubbly. Then when these are done, we'll let them cool for a bit and then I'll cut a square and give it a try. It's been about 40 minutes and my oatmeal raspberry bars are out of the oven. You can see they are bubbling hot. The jam on the sides is bubbling hot and the edges here are a nice golden brown. I'm going to go ahead and let this cool way down. I definitely don't want to cut it while the jam is still hot and bubbly like this. So I'm going to let that cool all the way down and then I'll come back when it's cool and I'll go ahead and cut out a square and give it a try. My raspberry oatmeal bars are cooled down and ready to cut. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these into squares and get these on a serving plate. My raspberry bars are cooled and cut into squares, and I've also set aside one in a little dish here that I'm going to go ahead and try now. I'm going to go ahead now and take a bite. You can see that these are so delicious looking with the raspberry jam center, and that is really delicious. I love the raspberry flavor. I think it pairs nicely with the oats. I love making a bar cookie. It is really easy. That took about 40 to 45 minutes to bake up, and then it took a couple hours to cool. The jam was really hot, and I wanted to be sure it was cool before I cut it into squares. So you'll want to definitely let that cool all the way. So that is my delicious raspberry oat squares recipe, a fun and easy old-fashioned bar cookie to make any time of year. I hope you give these oatmeal raspberry bars a try. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Goodbye.